Good morning, y'all. It's another beautiful day in the Pacific Northwest. And you know what that means. That can only mean one thing. It's mushroom hunting time. So I'm gonna go out, see what I can find. I'm in a slightly different area than usual. Typically, I'm in like far western Oregon. Today, I'm in more of a central Oregon rainforest. So I'm excited to see what's different. You know, different areas and different climates yield different mushrooms a lot of the time. So I am excited to see what we're gonna find today. I'm gonna take you guys with me and we're gonna do some education and just have some fun out here. So yeah, come with me. Let's see what we can find. Down here, we have one of my favorite mushrooms of all time. And at first glance, it kind of just looks like this weird little wiggly thingamajig. But if I pull this up, it's actually a mushroom. This is called Pseudohydenum gelatinosum, but its colloquial name is, as I drop it, its colloquial name is the cat's tongue. And it's called that because if you look at the bottom here, the bottom surface is covered in these little spines. And those are actually the spore creators of this mushroom. Those spines are basically tubes that drop spores. But yeah, this mushroom is just so cool. Its entire body is this sort of uniform jelly. And it's just this silly little slippery, wiggly thing. But it is indeed a mushroom. I love the name cat's tongue because that really does look like the surface of a cat's tongue. Although, unlike a cat's tongue, this is very soft and gelatinous. Yeah, these things are just so cool and they look so unusual on the forest floor. They're just these sort of glowing white little jelly boys. And yeah, just so cool. I love these. They're very cute to me and very, very interesting. Look at this. This is super cool. Right here, if I can pull this out, we have the conifer cone cap. This is such a cool mushroom. It only grows on conifer cones, and especially Douglas fir cones like this one. So to me, this is such a ubiquitous Oregon mushroom because Douglas fir is our state tree, and these guys love the Douglas fir cones. Again, they only grow on pine cones. That's just so cool to me. They're just so friendly to me. When I see these, it always reminds me that the mushroom season is coming or that it's well underway, like it is right now. Look at that, that's just so cool. And then another really cool thing that's happening down here. Look at these pine cones. That white filament that's kind of covering these cones is actually the mycelium of this mushroom. So this is a really special sight. You don't often get to see this. This is the mycelium. So this is the actual like living organism of the mushroom, is this white mycelium. And it's usually totally underground, but right now it's arisen and it is digesting these pine cones as we speak. That's so cool. So this mycelium is gonna infect these pine cones, and then in the coming years, we will get mushrooms out of these probably, just like this one here. So that is super, super cool. Again, you very rarely get to see this, like the mushroom mycelium kind of growing outside of its normal substrate or in the ground. Super, super cool. I don't want to disturb these too much. I kind of just want to let this process continue. But yeah, such a cool mushroom. Conifer cone cap. In some areas where there's a lot of pine cones, you'll just see every cone covered in these mushrooms. Really, really cool to see. Oh, look down here. This is a crazy mushroom. And when you first see this, you might not even think this is a mushroom or any kind of fungal life. But indeed it is. This is called witch's butter. I'm just gonna grab this. It's such a strange material that this stuff is made out of. Wow, look at that. Witch's butter. This is a wood decayer. So you're always gonna see it growing on old logs like this. Basically, the mycelium is in this wood, and it's just chewing that wood up. It's breaking it down and turning it into useful soil. A very important process in the ecological health of a forest. But yeah, so these guys have a very important job to do. And man, just look at that. It's such an odd, you know, this has nothing like the normal mushroom form that you would think of. It's very slippery, it's very slimy. It's this kind of jelly consistency. You see that? It's like all pretty much this uniform jelly. Super cool. You don't often see them in clumps this big, but they just pop right out of the forest floor. These are kind of like those cat's tongues in that they're just such a silly, strange, unusual creature, you know? Just such a weird mushroom. Look at this log. It is totally covered in witch's butter. So cool. All kinds of different forms too, just random globs. This one kind of looks like an octopus to me. Just all the way down this log. Look at that. It's so strange. It's this weird wiggly mushroom all over this. So they must really like this area. And you know, I don't blame them. I like this area too. So cool. It's so weird to see. Found another cat's tongue here. I just love these guys so much. Look at that wiggle. That's crazy. Oh man, so cool. Right next to this pretty little bridge is a very pretty little mushroom growing in a pretty big fruiting here. Let me grab one of these guys. These are called Hyphiloma fasciculare, aka the sulfur tuft. These are really cool mushrooms, and you'll see these in urban settings. These decay rotting wood, so they always grow out of old stumps and logs. And you will definitely see these guys like in cityscapes. You'll see them in people's yards, in these big fruitings. They're real easy to see because they have this kind of fluorescent yellow quality to them, especially like on the stipe and the gills. Kind of have this fluorescent yellow. Right now it's not picking it up so good, but when you see them in person, it's pretty crazy. It's just this like fluorescent glowing yellow. These are poisonous. They will give you stomach upset. They're not fatal by any means, but you definitely can't eat them. They also have this like really strong metallic taste to them, so you wouldn't want to eat them even if you tried. And another really interesting thing about these is they fluoresce under ultraviolet light, especially these gills. So my plan is possibly to come here at night and show you guys what that looks like. It's really, really cool to see, especially in the dark. They've got this purple-brown spore print, and you could kind of see the spores. You know, when a mushroom grows on top of another one, sometimes it kind of gives you a good look into those spores. Like, yeah, I can kind of pick them off, and it's this sort of brownish purple spore. Yeah. So, really cool. Hyphiloma fasciculare. There's another fruiting of kind of smaller guys over here. But yeah, you can just see how bright yellow they are and how just bright those gills are. Really cool. Someone's got a little friend on it. Hello. Super cool. Sulfur tuft. Ooh, I'm really glad we found these. These are called smoky gills. They're a Hyphiloma species, so they're related to those yellow ones we saw earlier, those kind of fluorescent yellow mushrooms. They're in the same genus, but unlike those ones, which are toxic, these are actually a choice edible. They're really, really tasty to eat, but you want to be very careful to distinguish the two, because yeah, one is toxic and this one is choice. So they're called smoky gills, because unlike those Hyphiloma fasciculari, these ones actually have a grayish gill. The fasciculari have those like neon yellow gills. These are this sort of drab grayish color, and that is the best way to distinguish these two. These ones also don't fluoresce nearly as strongly under ultraviolet light. But yeah, that gray gill is the best way to distinguish these. Besides that, they look really similar. So if you're kind of just getting started with foraging, or maybe not too confident about your idea of these, I would just avoid these as an edible. Again, they're kind of more of like a moderate difficulty level ID. And if you're not totally sure what you're looking at, it's best to just avoid these because, again, their close relative is poisonous. But yeah, smoky gills, they've got this gray gill. It's just so cool that we saw those other ones and then these relatives in essentially the same place. So cool. These are also wood rotters, so you'll always see them kind of rotting these old logs. Super, super cool. Here's kind of a comparison of the gills of those two mushrooms. This one is the Sulfur Tuft, and this one is the smoky gill. And as you can see, when they're together, it's a little easier to tell them apart. You know, again, this one's kind of got that fluorescent yellow look to it, and this one is more this sort of smoky gray. But you know, otherwise, if I flip them over here, you know, pretty similar. You really need the gills to tell these guys apart. And even then, you know, again, if you're not really, really confident of what you're doing, just skip these mushrooms in general. But yeah, it's really interesting. Same family, poisonous, delicious, you know, crazy. This is a really exciting mushroom to find. This is called Cantharellus tubeiformis, and it's also known as the winter chanterelle. And as the name implies, it's related to the golden chanterelle, and it has some of the same features. As you can see, it's got those false gills, so they're not really like slits of paper, they're more like veins, and they are decurrent, so you can see they're running down the stipe slightly. They don't like end at the stipe, they kind of travel down a bit. And they've got this kind of rusty yellowish color, and these are really exciting to find. They are a delicious edible, and they also grow pretty prodigiously. Like you'll see, there's a couple more there, there's some right here. And these I just think are delicious. They kind of have the same flavor as chanterelles, but they're a little tougher, and I like to kind of cook them just as they are. I don't really chop these up at all. They're just great kind of thrown in the pan like this, but really, really exciting to find. I'm definitely gonna collect some of these. Winter chanterelles, and as the name implies, they kind of grow a little bit later than chanterelles. Usually they'll come up in the winter months. They like it when it gets a little bit colder. Super, super cool to find. I wasn't really expecting to see these, so I'm pretty pumped. When you see a sign like this, you definitely want to take heed. This is here for a reason. Snags are no joke. So when you see stuff like this, definitely pay attention. It's really important stuff. You want to be safe out here. It is really starting to rain here. So for the sake of my camera, I think I'm gonna beat a hasty retreat. But I am pleasantly surprised by what we found today. I didn't really know what to expect, and we saw some pretty cool stuff. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you learned some cool things about mushrooms and maybe got some secondhand forest therapy out of the deal as well. I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm gonna go get dry. Peace. We're back with these sulfur tufts. It is pitch black out here, but we've got these beautiful mushrooms here, and I also have my ultraviolet flashlight. Let's see if I can do all this with one hand. right here. So this thing is gonna show us the luminescence of this mushroom under ultraviolet light. So I'm gonna shut this flashlight off and turn the UV on. We're gonna see what we find. Boom. Look at that. It's just shining so brightly under this UV light. Kind of raise it up, look around, and then look down. It's so vivid and visible. And then if I turn around, there's some behind me. And yeah, look at that. You can just see those glowing from so far away. Get up close here. Look at that. Hyphiloma fasciculare, and that amazing glowing under UV light. The underside of the gills, like the bottom of the cap, have the strongest effect on these. Look at how bright those get underneath. And to show you the difference in the fluorescence, I also have those other hyphilomas. These are the smoky gills, the very close relatives to the sulfur tuft. But look, no effect from the UV, but over here, just glowing so bright. So that's another very diagnostic difference. But man, look at that. It just brightens up. It's like I'm shining a normal flashlight on them. I step back. Look at that. Crazy. And then see him over there. And then that other cluster there. That just shows you the stark contrast in the dark. Amazing. So cool.